All right, folks, it's another day on here in Durham, North Carolina, where I'm based at. But of course, we are here on the International Broadcast Media Television Network. And of course, we call that IBMTV.TV for those of you that are watching on the world and around the world, because we have a number of folks that listen from around the world. We have folks that are listening in Australia, in places like India, in places like London, as well as throughout the United States. And a number of folks here are definitely out and about getting their Christmas shopping done if they have the resources to do that. I know a lot of folks are definitely struggling with the economy that we are facing here, and definitely that is still going on. We understand a stimulus package may be on the way. I was hoping it was going to be here by Monday, but now I'm hearing that there may be talks of delays and that we may not actually get that until later on, maybe either later on in the year or sometime in the early part of next year, since there is some kind of conflict about whether it's going to be 600 or 2,000. But I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I could use any amount at this particular time, because definitely it has been a very struggling year in the year of 2020. And of course, there is the vaccine that is out there now as well. So we do have that vaccine, and people are trying to decide whether they're going to get those doses, how they're going to get those doses, and all of that. So definitely that is some of the things that are going on in our community and with our community. So a lot of folks around different states are getting doses. And of course, we do expect the frontline workers to be the first ones to get it. And that is definitely the case. So they are getting it, as well as some of our government officials and other people as well. So that is one of the things that are going on in our world. And there are, of course, a number of other things that are happening here as well. And of course, it's Mullins Music and Memories on a Wednesday afternoon. You know, that's one of the shows that I do here regularly on IBM TV, and I'm glad to do that on a regular basis. And I've got an amazing guest that I met through my good friend Srinivasan, that being a gentleman that knows a lot about inventions, and he's got all kinds of patents, and he actually believes that there is an inventor in all of us. And I definitely can agree with that. I think that oftentimes we don't think about the many inventions that we could have made and all of that. I know a good friend of mine, Osa Swepson, when he was at North Carolina Central University, he used to make all kinds of inventions, and some of those I think he even got patents for and things along that line. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation with Charles and learning more about his amazing career and the fact that he definitely believes that there is an inventor among many of us, and we just have to go out there and use our knowledge in order to actually create these inventions that may be in our mind. So right now, we're going to bring Charles in and learn a little bit more about Charles and all of that. So I've got Charles Kannankeril in with me and everything. So definitely great to have you here, Charles. Definitely, like I said, I met you through Sri. He is a great gentleman that I am a big fan of, being a fan of social media and all of that. But like I said, when you sent me your presentation and the fact that oftentimes we don't think about all these great inventors that are out there in the world. And some of these inventors came at a very young age. I remember reading about one inventor that you were talking about that made their invention at the age of 6. And I've got 2 nephews that are now they just turned 11 and 12. And I'm thinking, hey, maybe they need to invent something as well. So we do have those young inventors that are out there. And then you were also talking about a gentleman that I think was well into his 90s when he came up with his invention. So definitely, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself to the world that is watching, I'm sure that they would love to learn more about Charles, this amazing gentleman that I met through my friend Srinivasan.
Right, great. Thanks for having me. Let me introduce myself. Like you said, I'm Charlie Kannankeril, and I'm a research scientist by profession. And for the past 45 years, I worked with the industry, conducting research, developing new ideas and solutions to meet the consumer demand. And during this time, I've been very fortunate to have come up with more than 300 ideas, solutions, products, and processes, which were protected by 85 patents and numerous trade secrets. And when I retired, I looked back and realized that during this time, I have gained an incredible amount of valuable information, knowledge, and experience in the field of invention. And I felt it is important to share that information with others who may benefit from it. And with that thought, I documented all this information and published them in my book, The Inventor in You. Now, this book is basically a step-by-step guide on how to identify a problem, how to come up with solutions, and how to take that solution, turn into an invention, and most importantly, how to turn that invention how to protect that invention. And my goal is to inspire the readers and motivate them to come up with their own inventions. So that's
Wow.
basically, where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think some of the biggest mistakes folks make when they're trying to come up with inventions? Because I know a lot of times people will think that they have the greatest ideas in the world, and they'll think that there's something that could definitely shake the economy, shake the world in some form or fashion. But oftentimes I find that we don't think about planning ahead, even when we're trying to come up with inventions and things of that nature. So I was wondering, what do you think some of the mistakes that our inventors make when they're even thinking about a possible invention idea?
Well, before you even think about the mistake you had, you have to make sure you have something that you invented, and it is something that authentic, and nobody has done it before, and that's how you get the ownership of that invention. A lot of times we come up with an idea, and you think, oh, I got it made, and nobody can think of this idea that I just came up with. And unfortunately, when you do the search, which is the first step you do once you have the invention, you have to go through the patent search or the ownership search. You'll be amazed how many people were thinking the same way you did and came up with the same invention. So the first hurdle is to make sure that nobody else have done it, so you can claim the ownership. And once you have that, there are several steps you can take. The number one step you need to take is to protect your invention, so you can capitalize on your idea. So those are the two things that you need to address.
Yeah, and definitely I can understand that you got to make sure that somebody else doesn't have the invention that you may already think that is something that you have come up with original, but other folks may have already come up with that idea. And I know here a lot of times folks are concerned about like the patent laws and some of the other laws, and you have several patents. So what do you think is the best step in order to get your patents even approved, whether that's here or that's globally? Because I do know that the rules change depending on which country you're in.
Well, in the United States, once you have the idea, you have to do your own homework first. Like I said before, you do a patent search. You can do a Google search, and you put your keywords. Say you came up with a chair that you sit down. It has 4 legs and a cushion and an armchair, and has a vibrator, so you can get the massage and all that. So a lot of times you think, oh, this is a great idea. But when you do the search, and the way you do the search, you put as many words as you can to describe your invention. So, for example, in this case, you say a chair with a cushion, with a vibration, and the arms and the cushion or wheels that has in it, all that words, and then click on it. And you'll be amazed. You'll have thousands of hits that you will see. But not all of them may be copying your idea, but you have similarities. And the patent office, what they look for is how similar that product is to yours. And you have to prove to the patent office that yours is definitely different from what is out in the market. And once you have that, then you have a good chance of getting the patent. Now, how do you get the patent? There are several ways you can do. Generally, patents are very expensive. Now, I worked with the industry, so when we get a patent, the industry, our company, spend an average $25,000 to get one patent approved, and it takes about 2 years. But that's not to say you have to spend $25,000. If you are smart enough, you can do the patent application without a lawyer, without the assistance of a lawyer. But you have to do certain reading. You have to read all the laws and what needs to be done. But a friend of mine did that exact same thing. He did not get a lawyer, and all he had to do is apply for the patent and pay the patent fee. Now I can go into details how to go, what are the steps involved, or I can talk that at a later stage.
Now, definitely, I want to get into some more details about the steps and everything, but I do want to give the folks a more general overview. Now, what are some of the most unusual patents, either that you yourself have had the privilege of putting out there, or that you've heard about? Like I said, I found it amazing that a 6-year-old, because a lot of times we don't even think of 6-year-olds as even thinking their whole cognitive abilities at that age, but you did talk about a 6-year-old that came up with an invention. So what are some of the unusual inventions that folks have come up with as well as your own?
Well, yeah. Let me tell you my favorite story, invention story. This is about a 10-year-old girl from Connecticut who was a cancer patient. And she came up with an invention for a medical device to solve the problem that she was facing. When she was in the hospital, she was getting the IV drips for the cancer treatment, and she had the needle stuck on her arm, tubes coming out of it, attached a couple of IV bags. Now, anytime she want to move around, she has to grab all the tubes in one hand and push the IV stand with the other. She found it very annoying, uncomfortable, and inconvenient. One day, while moving around like this, one of the tubes got loose and was dragging on the floor. She tripped on it, fell down, and got hurt. Now, she was very upset. And when she got up, she said to herself, I wish there's a better way to do this. And that was a turning point. She went back to bed with that thought, still upset, was staring at that IV stand. She noticed her backpack lying on a table right next to it. That backpack gave her an idea. When the nurse came by, she asked the nurse if she could remove those IV bags from the stand and attach to her backpack. Then folded all the tubes and tucked inside. Then this girl stood up, put on the backpack, and started to walk freely. No more holding on to the hands for the tubes, or no more pushing the IV stand. She could even, at this stage, climb the steps, which she was never able to do with the IV contraption, with the IV stand. And the nurse was impressed. And the parents were excited, and they helped her to apply for a patent. Now, this 10-year-old girl was granted a United States patent for her work, which she called the IV pack. Now, here we see a little girl, a 10-year-old girl, did not even have a high school education, came up with a great idea to solve the problem that she was facing. And all she did was a little bit of imagination and with a strong desire to solve the problem. And normally that's all it takes for anybody to come up with an invention. And the takeaway from the story is that it's not what you learn, it's how you use your wisdom that's important. And it's important for you to be an inventor. So
Definitely. And like I said, sometimes they say that, what's that old saying that it's something about invention and it's how it comes about and because of the circumstances. So circumstances being the mother of invention, I believe is the full quote and everything. It sounds like that is exactly what happened in this young lady's case, was that she had that circumstance and that she needed to have something that would improve her situation. So the circumstances is why she created this other development and everything. So definitely that's something that oftentimes happens and we don't think about that and all of that. So one of the things that you've often said is that anyone can be an inventor and that there is an inventor in all of us. And some of the things you've talked about is the fact that inventions were oftentimes created by ordinary citizens. I mean, we oftentimes think about inventors, like, of course, the famous ones like Alexander Bell, as well as like in the African-American community, George Washington Carver and some other folks. But even they, I would argue, were probably just average citizens as well. So could you talk about how you feel that the inventors, that this is actually something that a lot of us have the capability of doing if we just put our mind to it?
Yes, you can. I would say when you look at the inventors, they have basically 5 different qualities in them: ambition, imagination, motivation, inspiration, and persistence. And all these are, fortunately, we are all born with these qualities to some extent. But what we need to do is to identify these hidden talents in us, nurture them, and learn how to use them more effectively. So you have to work on it to some extent to get that going. But once you get that going, it will come automatically. When you look at an object, some people, when you see a new product, some people will see, hey, this is great. I like all these features. And they are happy with it. And they're happy with the status quo. Those people, they probably won't come up with an invention in their life unless they change their mind. Right. But the other group of people, when they look at a project, they see all the good features, but they think beyond that. They will say, this is a great product, but can I change this slightly and make it something different? Can I add something to it to modify it? Or can I find a new use for that thing? And these are thoughts that come automatically to you if you put your mind to it. That's why when I said anybody can train yourself to be an inventor. So this is how you look at things and how you ask questions. And that's what motivates them to come up with answers.
Yep, and I know a lot of the inventions that we think about are inventions that have come about in order to scale down things. Like I said, I remember the early days of the computer when I was going to college and everything, and it was a big mammoth. And now we're on laptops and on smaller computers, even some the size of telephones and things of that nature. So a lot of times it also seems like a lot of the inventions are created in order to make our society more streamlined, for lack of a better word, and everything. So do you think that's the case as well, that a lot of times the inventions that we have created are in order to make our lives easier in some form or fashion?
Absolutely. That's why let's take a couple of different examples. When you go into the kitchen, you use a kitchen knife almost every day, and it automatically comes to you. You take that kitchen and you use it to cut it and slice it. But one of the problem with that thing, there's a lot of accident caused by that knife. So a lot of times people just accept the fact that, I will be careful. But some people, they say, you know what, maybe I can do something about that. I can come up with different ways to use that knife. And that's how, when people started thinking about it, they came up with the different ways to improve that knife. They came with a foldable knife with the guards. They even come up with the gloves or some gadgets. You hold on to the object so you don't cut your finger. So you can go into the tangent and go into different directions. Either work on the knife to improve it, or work on something else so you can hold onto that object that you want to cut so you don't cut your finger. So you can think in different directions, but all of them will come up with an invention or a modification. So,
yeah. Now, one of the inventions I believe that you were involved in, and it's something that I think we use all the time, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. But I know that a lot of times folks will go and they'll mail packages and they'll do things of that nature, and we'll oftentimes use bubble wrap. And it seems to me that if I remember correctly, that you were involved in that process as well. So could you talk a little bit about how bubble wrap came about, and if you even thought that it was going to be as successful as it is? Because like I said, you can't hardly mail a package without using the bubble wrap, and a lot of times folks will even use it as a form of entertainment with their animals and other things, just because folks like to pop that bubble wrap as well. So definitely, if you can talk about kind of the success of bubble wrap.
Absolutely. Bubble wrap was invented about 70 years ago by a gentleman with the name Alfred Fielding, and I worked for the company. And when I joined it, he was still there, and I had the pleasure of meeting him and working with him for several years before he passed away. There's an interesting story about this bubble wrap. When he invented this product, he didn't know exactly what to use it for. His initial thought was use it as a decorative wallpaper with the tiny bubbles. And he thought it would make a nice wallpaper. So he started making this product, and he tried to market that for a few years, but unfortunately, nobody was interested in this product as a wallpaper. And after several years, he decided to shut down the business. Then one day he was playing with this, and he accidentally popped one of the bubble. Then he realized that this has a great cushion properties, which he never thought of before, although he invented that product. And the rest is history. Today, bubble wrap is one of the most commonly used packaging product in the entire world. And this company makes more than $500 million worth of bubble wrap every single year. So when I joined this company, they were having little problems. As the company grew, they were getting more competition. And also the gasoline price started going up. And they found it extremely difficult and expensive to ship this bubble wrap, lightweight, bulky bubble wrap, from the manufacturing location to the customers. So the margin went down, and they started making less and less money, and the plus competition was going up. So my first project was to come up with a way to reduce the shipping cost for this bubble wrap. I tried different approaches, tried to redesign the size, shapes, and bubble and all that. Everything solved, addressed the problem, but they created more problems. So finally, I came up with an idea to make a flat bubble wrap that you can ship to the customer flat in large rolls. And then we also designed a small portable inflator, which is a little bigger than the size of your backpack. And the customer used this portable machine, and they buy the flat bubble wrap from us, and they instantly inflate it on demand, on site. And that was a huge hit for the industry. They loved it for two reasons. Number one, their shipping cost was down, and they could afford a low-cost product. The main reason was that it saved a tremendous amount of warehouse space to store this bubble. Right. An example is Amazon, one of our large customers. They use 100 trucks full of bubble wrap a single day in a single location. Now, if you want to store all that bubble, a one-day supply, it will fill up the huge warehouse. That will be bigger than this block. So it was a win-win situation. For us, we could make a low-cost bubble, and the customer could use less space to store it, and they can make it on demand, on site, and instantly. So that was a huge hit for the company.
Now, one of the other things we've been hearing people talk about with everything going on in the world now is the fact that many people are pivoting and changing their careers, also reinventing themselves because of the fact that we're dealing with the pandemic. A lot of folks are working from home, and they're also kind of like changing even the way that we're educated, whether that's a hybrid model or whatever. So do you think that we're going to see a spike in inventions? Because I'm thinking that a lot of times when there have been these kind of world cataclysms or whatever you want to call them, that's when a lot of inventions have come about, whether that's like I mentioned, George Washington Carver, and a lot, of course, he was coming with his inventions during a time of being involved in slavery and things of that nature. I've definitely seen people do inventions in other kinds of like world situations, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. So do you think that this is going to actually increase the amount of inventions that people will be trying to create because of what's going on in the world?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We have already seen the results. So during the early stages of the pandemic, the pharmaceutical companies, they came up with a COVID test, right? And the first test was pretty much a disaster. It took about 2 weeks to get the results, and once they got the results, it showed a lot of false positive and false negative. So it was not a reliable test method. As soon as the people inventors or people with inventive mind, they heard about this problem. They jumped on it. And many companies around the world, they worked on it. They came up with at least half a dozen, maybe even more, test methods to method that can give the results right away or even a shorter period of time and with the more reliable results. So that gave an opportunity for them to invent. And so many inventions and patents came out on that area. Same thing with the ventilators, which was the one of the treating method for the acute patients. But the problem was ventilators were huge and very expensive, and for that reason, we didn't have enough at that time. And actually, I read about 5 different ways they improved the ventilators. The main work was done in the United States, and what they did was they modified the ventilator. That same ventilator, they modified it so they can use the same ventilator for 8 different patients at a given time. So that means they reduced they increased the supply by 8 times. At the same time, reducing the cost by 1/8, and that was significant. In India, I heard they came up with a ventilator that using a bicycle pedal. They crank the pedals and they use as a ventilator. That costs less than $50 compared to $50,000 here. So to answer your question, yes, people came up with a lot of inventions because we saw a problem, we saw an issue, we saw an unmet need, and that's how it worked. Same thing with the insulin, not the insulin, the vaccine.
Right.
That was an unmet need, and people jumped on that opportunity, worked on it, and several companies came up with a vaccine in a record time. And,
wow. Yeah, we definitely tend to come out in a record time. There's no doubt about that. And definitely, like I said, a lot of folks are definitely paying attention to that. What do you think is one of the biggest, like you said, you've done a number of your own patents, but what do you consider your greatest success in your own inventions of those that you have created? And then I'd love to talk about some of the other ones like that 96-year-old came up with, but I'd love to hear some of the ones that you consider your greatest successes.
Well, there are different ways I categorize them. A successful invention with the biggest financial reward, or a successful invention with a significant scientific invention. And but I still consider the one what I'm going to talk to you about now is it's an invention which was never patented.
Wow.
The reason for that, let me tell you what that is. I don't know if you can. This is a rubber tape, and it's called high voltage insulation. The people like Con Edison, electric companies, they were looking for a insulating tape to put on the outdoor high voltage cables when they splice it together. Problem with that, during certain electric surge or even lightning, that area sees very high temperature, close to 3,000 degrees, and only for a few seconds, but that's enough to melt any insulation you put in there and expose the wire and create the failure. So I used to work for this company, made these the insulation tapes. So I was given this challenge to come up with a rubber tape that can withstand this 3,000 degree temperature, even only for 20 seconds. That's all they require, because that's all the time it was exposed to this high temperature. But when I looked at it, no plastic or rubber can go beyond even 300 degrees. Now we are talking about 3,000 degrees. Mm-hmm. So I knew it was pretty much an impossible task, but I worked on it for almost a year and a half. tried every chemical formula I could think of. And one day I decided to come out of the box and think outside the box and try something very unconventional. And that formula gave me a hope that at least we can, come close to this requirement. So I made this tape, the one I showed you before. Mm-hmm. But to test it, I have to go to the University of Kannankeril. That was the only university at that time. This is like 50 years ago, 40 plus years ago. At that time, who had a machine that can generate this 3,000 degree temperature to test this material. So I called up the professor who was handling the machine, and he said, he asked me what I'm going to be testing. I said, it's a rubber tape formula. He said, don't bother coming in. It'll never pass. But I finally convinced him. I went there. We put that in the machine. He turned on the machine. The surface turned the color and changed into a different material, like a porcelain. And it prevented that flame from going in. And instead of passing for 20 seconds, we ran the test for about three minutes. And it was still going on. And he got curious. He kept on going for 5 minutes. Then he thought something wrong with the machine because no material will pass this test. So he checked the machine. Everything was all right. And we ran the machine and continued the test for 20 minutes, almost half hour, and no damage to this product. At that time, he has turned the machine on because the machine got overheated. And that was a great product. So I came back and talked to my staff, and everybody was excited. And the company decided not to patent this formula. The reason is, when you patent the formula, you have to publish this formula to the world. And anybody is not very, they can easily steal this idea and work around it, and without your knowledge. So the company didn't want to take the chance. They want to keep it as a trade secret. And there are pros and cons for having a trade secret, because you have to keep this very, very strict secret, just like the Coca-Cola formula. You probably heard about. That's the biggest trade secret, successful trade secret in the world. They have been able to keep that formula hidden for almost more than 100 years without anybody copying it, because they knew it's a tough formula. Nobody can re-engineer it or backtrack it, and so that's the secret of that formula. So it has to be something that is very unique. Nobody can easily copy it. Then your best decision is to keep it as a trade secret and not to give it get the patent. When you get the patent.
Sorry, Charles. You mentioned Coca-Cola and everything, and that actually got me to thinking, because I was thinking about the fact that there have actually been some parts of that formula that were revealed. Like I said, there were certain chemicals that were involved in that Coca-Cola formula that a lot of folks know about. I think
they copied it, but the exact formula, that real taste, people who got used to that taste, that can never be repeated because of that great formula. They can come very close, but the actual formula, and for the same reason, this formula, this is more than 45 years now. Nobody has been able to copy my formula, and companies still successfully make it this great product without anybody copying it. So I take very pride in this particular formula. And answering your question, I still say this is my the most something that close to my heart.
Gotcha. Definitely seems very, very close to your heart. Now, one of the other things that I know that people think about inventors for is kind of like looking into the future and things of that nature. And I know a lot of times we're always looking for the inventors to kind of like create these things that we've always wanted, but they haven't happened yet. So as an inventor, do you think that we'll ever get to the day where we will see those self-driving cars, those flying cars that were kind of made famous in the Jetsons, and some of the other things that a number of folks have been wanting for years, but they don't seem to be any closer to happening in the as we're heading into 2021? Because like I said, I'm just wondering your thoughts as to whether we will see these inventions that a number of folks have been speculating on, but we haven't had yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, when you look back to 007, you know, how many of the things that we saw in there, which everybody thought it will never happen, and we are doing that. I still remember. I don't know if you watched the show Get Smart.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I remember Get Smart.
He is a shoe Ford. He says it was like the cell phone there, but right. they had the idea at that time, but they didn't know how to do that. So, yep. I mean, these things are coming. Especially today with the artificial intelligence. My God, it's mind-boggling what it can do. And also the time frame has gotten shorter and shorter for this type of invention to come through. And you will see significant changes in the next 5 years. Yesterday I saw a robotic toy. I couldn't believe the things that toy can do. I mean, he started thinking itself. He see an obstacle in front, he maneuver itself and move away from it, and do certain things that you never thought a toy could do. Wow. It's coming. It's coming.
Wow. Sounds like it's definitely coming. Now, what is the process, and you've done a number of these inventions, from the time of it coming into your brain until it actually, say, hitting a storefront? Is it a time frame that can be as short as a year, or are we looking at a 5 to 10 year time frame from the time that somebody comes up with a new invention, or maybe there's an invention, as you discussed earlier, where it's basically like I won't call it a reinvention, but it's a readaptation of something that already exists, like the example you used of the chair that has been modified and things of that nature. How long does it take to get from the point of the person's mind to being a product that's out there in the public?
Well, it varies. Depends on what the product is. Some of them I have come up with a prototype for a product in 2 days. Mm-hmm. But same time, it took several months to a year to come up with a product for a different invention. So it all varies in what you're trying to do and what your goals are. Once you have that idea, you make the prototype, then you sit down with your manufacturing location and find out how easily they can manufacture this product. That depends on a lot of things. Do they have a machine that can handle this type of manufacturing? Or you have to get a new machine. Now, if they have a machine that's already compatible with this, they can come up with this product within maybe a couple of months. But if there's a new machine involved, it probably take at least 6 months to a year to make the machine to make this product. Then that's how you commercialize it. Now, the important part is you don't want to invent something and start selling it tomorrow because you have no protection.
Right.
You have to get your protection like a patent. Now, normally, an average patent, once you file the application, it takes about 2 years before you finally get the patent application. That doesn't mean that you cannot start selling it. Right. Once you file the application, you can start selling the product tomorrow, even though you don't have a patent. All you need to do is to put on the product, patent pending. Okay. Now, that is a warning to your your competition. They know that they're going to invest a lot of money to make this product. And if I get the patent, they have to dismantle everything. They cannot make it. But for the first 2 years, until I get the patent, they are free to make that product and sell it. But that's a big risk. So unless it's if it is a good product, you probably want to wait until you get the patent and get the complete protection. But if it is a product that you think others can compete with you or others can come up with similar products, then you're probably better off going to the market right away. But file the patent first and get the patent pending sign on your product.
Okay. Now, we have a show here on our network called Learning Unwrapped. It's an education program and everything of that nature. And I know they talk about critical thinking and a number of other things within that show. But one of the things that they've talked about on that show, as well as some of the shows that I've done, is a question of whether we're doing a good enough job in our education system of teaching people about critical thinking and about ways that they can get involved in things like science, like education, and like invention. So as one that has done a number of these things in the world and has definitely had a number of patents out there, how do you feel our education system is doing in terms of teaching our youth and even our adults about the whole concept of inventions and getting the word out that this is something that is within the realm of their possibilities?
Yeah, it's you have to have the desire to go into this route. I've gone to several locations giving my speech, and in one place, all I had was all teenagers, and I could not believe the questions I was getting from these little kids. They were so into this invention. So you have to have a desire, you have to have that focus, and you have to have that ambition. And once you put your mind through it, then you had to work on your the 5 qualities I talked about, and you can go from there. But to get the people interested I would say, is the biggest challenge. Because a lot of people think that, invention, I'm not an inventor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a genius. You don't have to be any of those. But you have to, somehow you have to convince the people you don't need this to go into that stage. I would say that's the biggest challenge, and I'm sure a lot of schools are changing the way they prepare the kids to go into this route and encourage them to try to do their own way of inventing things. You have to give them the freedom. You don't tell them that, hey, invent this, I want this and that. That's right. You have to give them freedom. That's how they get self-confidence. You have to come from within.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Now, Charles, as an inventor and everything, I've oftentimes curious about this when I've talked to friends of mine that have been in this space, be whether they be inventors or they be scientists or some of the other field scholars as well. If you had a chance to invent something that you haven't created yet, what is some kind of like product or some sort of solution that you would like to see out there that you haven't figured out yet? So is there like a problem that you're still working on that you're trying to figure out a solution to? That's question one. And then question two, which kind of is the back end of that, is there something that's out there either as a common product, meaning like we talked about Coca-Cola, or it could be something even more global that you wish had never been invented? So that's my 2-part question. Is there something out there that you still are hoping to have a solution to? Because I know that's what inventors are oftentimes looking for, is solutions. So is there a solution that you are hoping that you will see in your lifetime? And is there something that, even though you love inventions, you wish had never been invented?
Well, to answer the first question, I may not be qualified to work on that area. I'm looking for medical miracles, like the vaccine that came out. I mean, that's my if I am qualified as a physician or a medical professional, that will be my goal, to come up with a medical miracle like the vaccine they came up with, surgical procedure, a lot of things you couldn't do, and also work on the brain. I mean, brain is something. How do you understand the brain? How do you create the brain? How do you cure this multifunctional computer? How do you either make it better or program it differently to make it do to give a resistance to your or increase your immune system and cure the disease.
Right.
That will be, I would say, the biggest challenge. I would like to see.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And is there something that, whether it was a food or something, but on a more global level, that you wish had never had been invented, that has been cause of too much destruction? So if there's anything on that line that you wish had not been invented, because a lot of times, but even from bad things, I think we get good benefits, because I think that even though a lot of people would probably put the nuclear bomb as one of those things that they never wanted, we've had some benefits that have come from that.
Yeah. Well, I would say, I don't know if anybody has a patent on it. I'm talking about street drugs.
Right.
I don't think anybody has a patent on it, but that's an invention. That's destroying our world, destroying the people. And that's probably the single most thing that I see, in my view, is important, that never happened.
Right. And tell folks a little bit more about how you got involved in inventions. Were you the kid that when you were a youngster growing up, were you always the inquisitive type? And were you inventing stuff even as a youngster, or was it something that you developed later in life as a teenager or as a young adult? So at what point in your life did you realize that you were an inventor, and what was your first invention that you created?
I would say probably when I was a little kid, maybe 5 years old. I grew up in a different environment. I was born in a remote island. We did not have running water. We did not have electricity. This island was separated from big towns. Mm-hmm. So we lived there, and every so often we get to go outside to the other thing. Every time I come back, I was fascinated with the things I see, and I tried to imitate them, improvise them, and try to make that product. Even for a toy car, I saw the toy car. I came home, and I took. We didn't have the wheels, so I took a little. This nuts came from a fruit. It was nice and round, so I took 4 of them and joined them together with an axle and created a toy car at that age. And we didn't have electricity. So first time I saw a movie was my father took me to the next town, and we saw a movie. I was fascinated with the first movie. So I went to the movie projection room. I wanted to find out how it was done. And I saw it's a big, bright light beam, and I saw the film moving up and down, and then it projected into the picture. And the way controlling the speed, you could see the motion picture. So I was fascinated by that. So I asked him if I could have a broken piece. He had a lot of broken pieces of movie films. So I got about several feet of these. I brought it home, and I made a spool, and made a 2-spool and wound up on the other. And I took a flashlight. That's the only electricity we had. And I made a little frame, so only one frame of the film is visible. I took the flashlight and pointed against the wall. I turned on the light, or there's no light in there. And I could see the film. I can see the image on the wall. Then I slowly dragged the film, and I was able to make the first motion picture without the electricity. So then I thought, this flashlight was not bright enough. So I started thinking, how can I make the bright light without electricity? Next morning, I saw, we have a bright sunny day. I took a mirror, and I pointed the mirror at the sun, and I got the reflection through the window. So I made a small hole in the window the light could go through. So I got a powerful light coming into the house, into the room, and I put the same frame, and I did the same thing, used the sunlight as the bright light, and I got a much brighter movie. and I called all my friends and neighbors. Everybody came and watched the first motion picture in an island where we had no running water, no electricity. This was when I was 9 years old.
Wow. So you were doing that at 9. That's amazing. I was actually just thinking about an invention that my dad had that was actually a matter of necessity, but he's very much been a supporter of animals and things of that nature. So he found a turtle that was actually on the road, and the turtle had actually been injured. So one of the things he did was he put some car wheels, like the little toy car wheels, onto the turtle, and actually gave the turtle a little bit of life for a while the turtle was rolling around. Unfortunately, it didn't last that much longer, but it did last a little bit longer as my dad created this kind of like mini motorized version to let the turtle get around.
That's great. That's great.
So that was one of the cases that you're talking about where it kind of like helped out and everything. But I was watching this show yesterday, and actually, as you were talking about what you were going to in your village and everything, it actually reminded me of that conversation, because we're talking about how sometimes modern society will get in the way of things. But it was a book called The Last Hunter Gatherers, and I think that they're part of Indonesia, and they do the old hunting of the sperm whale and all of that. So they hunt the sperm whale using old boats in terms of the wooden boats and harpooning the whale and all of that. And they were talking about how they do that even now, even in this era and everything. But now some of the young people have found the motorized things. So there are some people that are trying to have motorization come into this culture that has been not necessarily wanting to go modern in recent times. So they're kind of like coming into the modern way slowly, but definitely it's the younger folks that are bringing this modern version to what's going on. So I found that real fascinating when I was watching that story on one of the PBS channels yesterday. So I do know that sometimes invention can also change societies as well. So it seems to me that's what was going on even in your household when you were a youngster and everything.
That's right.
Who were some of the inventors that you consider to be like your inspirations as you've done all these patents? And I know you've probably got your own inventors that are your own personal inspirations, but who are some of the ones that you were inspired by and that you see as your role models in the invention space?
Well, the inventor of bubble wrap, he was a great inspiration for me, because I got very close to him. I worked very close with him, and every time we talk, and he kind of challenged me in certain ideas or certain products he was thinking about, and the way he approached me, the way he communicated with me was a great inspiration, especially the way he challenged me to do certain things. I think that was a great inspiration. And also, Thomas Edison, his lab is only 5 miles from my house. I've been to his lab so many times, and they have still his old inventions, everything displays. It's a big facility there. So that's another inspiration for me.
Yeah, definitely. Thomas Edison definitely inspired a lot of folks, and definitely continues to inspire folks even to this day. Because I mean, you can't go around without seeing his lights and a number of his other inventions and everything. And a lot of folks even forget that he was involved in the invention, as you were talking about, of the motion picture and of the phonograph and a number of other things that he was involved in as well. So definitely, I think folks forget about some of his inventions. What's an invention that he had that, as you live near where his home was and everything, what's an invention that you think a lot of folks aren't aware of that was a major invention of his?
That's a lot of people are not aware of it. That's a tough one, because I don't know. I thought everybody is aware of all the things that he came up with. I'm not sure if I can think of any.
Yeah, there's probably one that he's got that folks will have to think about. Maybe we'll get some of our folks to think of something that we're not even aware of he came with.
I will go back next week, and I'll find out an answer for it.
Find an answer for that one, something that folks may not know that he invented and all of that. So definitely, I know that a lot of what you talked about was the fact that of the requirements of what an inventor needs. And you talked about some of those earlier. Could you explain a little bit more about the details of ambition, imagination, motivation, inspiration, and persistence, and how they are all common qualities that we all have, but we may not think about them in the sense of creating something new or
Right.
reinventing something. So I'd like you to go into more details about that as well.
Yeah. You talked about ambition, imagination, motivation, inspiration, and persistence. All the inventors, they all have this ambition to create something new, useful, different, and unique. And they set their goals high, but in some cases, they even surpass their goal. But the ambition is the key. You have to have that ambition. Talking about the imagination, you have to keep an open mind and avoid the tunnel vision and think outside the box to initiate the invention process. When you talk about Thomas Edison or Einstein once said, you can go from point A to point B using your logic, but using your imagination, you can go anywhere you want. And that's a very powerful tool for the invention process. They are also highly motivated people. They are motivated to solve a problem. When you are faced with the problem, you basically have two choices. You can work on the problem and try to come up with a solution, or take the easy route. Accept the problem and live with it. And you don't want to do anything with it. You just accept the problem. So that is the motivation part of it. They are also easily inspired. They are influenced by personal and success stories. And then they use their creative mind to come up with solutions. And finally, the persistence. Sometimes inventions are easy to come by. They can happen spontaneously or as a result of an accident. But in most cases, it is the result of a long and arduous process. You have to go through many trials and errors, and you will face many failures. But they look at each failure as a learning curve. Thomas Edison has gone through many failures in his life before he came up with hundreds of inventions. But he never accepted the failure. He looked at each failure as something, he found something positive in each failure. And he used that information to solve other problems. That's why he said, I haven't failed, but I came up with thousands of ways that it did not work. And he used that negative results he got, used to solve other problems. So those basically the 5 qualities I talked about.
And another thing that you talk about within your paper and everything in your books is how we go about inventing things. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that as well, because you actually put out there reasons that people invent things. And I think that we've explored a couple of those during this conversation and everything. But I'd like you to go into more details.
Sure. Let me see. I'm just going through some of the notes. There are several ways you can initiate the invention process. First one is to identify a problem with a product. And I already gave you an example of the COVID test method. Same thing with the kitchen knife I talked about. I mean, you identify a problem. Kitchen knife is a great tool, but it has an inherent problem. You can accidentally cut yourself. So you start thinking of how to overcome that problem. Either you try to modify the knife or modify the method you use the knife. Use something else along with the knife to make that make the product safe. So that's how to identifying a problem. Then identifying an improvement in an existing product. I gave you an example of the ventilators, how they improved it to make it use for multiple patients at the same time by modifying the machine. So they increased their the supply by 8 times and reduced the cost by 8 times. another way to initiate a process is identify an unmet need that need to be fulfilled. Again, I gave an example in the COVID, the insulin, the vaccine
Right.
For the thing. Or if you look at the household, I mean, every time you go on a vacation, when you come back, you will see some of your indoor plants are practically dead because
Right.
nobody was watering for a long time.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity. You identify an opportunity to come up with a solution. So if you Google it, you will see hundreds of ways that people have come up with ways to automatically water the indoor plants. And so here's an opportunity, and people have come up with many solutions. And you will see, if you do a Google search in 2 months from now, you will see some new solutions for the same problem. So people are thinking, and they are working on the problem. And the last area you can initiate an invention process is identify a new use for an existing product. A good example is our cell phone.
Right.
Now, cell phone was invented many years ago, strictly to be used as a mobile phone to make the phone calls while you're away from home. And it was a great product. People loved it. But the people with the creative mind jumped on that product. They said, this is a great product. This has to be used, so it can be used somewhere else. And they worked on it. And thanks to their effort, today, an average person uses a cell phone only 10% of the time to make the phone call.
Right.
And 90% of the time is used for something other than using the phone call, like the searching the internet, use as a camera, GPS system. You can make your payments, do your banking, emailing, texting, GPS system, and you will see hundreds of new apps coming out. And we haven't done it. You will see many, many more applications, new uses for the cell phone. So each one of these is an invention. So those are the 4 different ways anybody can initiate an invention process, the way you think.
Yep, definitely. And I wish that my bosses at one of the cultural arts centers I work at had come up with that invention of the self-watering plant, because they actually called me earlier today because the cultural arts center that I do some of my work at, they needed the old-fashioned human touch of the person watering the plant. They have not invested yet in the self-watering machines. So that's one thing that they're going to have to invest in, because they can't always call on me to do it. So unfortunately, I was the person that got called on today to actually water the plant. So we need a self-watering plant at this particular cultural arts center that I've been involved with for a number of years. So if anybody's listening, remember to invent the self-watering plant, not just for your home, but also for your offices as well. So we need a self-watering plant machine for the office as well, so that you don't have to call on the individual to do that all the time in those circumstances and all of that. So had that thought as you were just saying that. Now, one of the other things you talk about is the fact that too often, and we talked about the chair, but can you give some other examples of where we created something, an invention, to make something better? Because I know a lot of times people will think about the inventions that are just the common ones, but a lot of times it might be just something that already exists, whether it's a chair, whether it's I think that there's even folks that have been trying to find new and improved ways of even doing clothes hangers and things of that nature. But can you give some examples of things that have been improved on and that were old products and old inventions?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you look inside your home, you will see many examples. Take the vacuum cleaner. The original vacuum cleaner was so primitive that all it does is hardly picked up any dirt. And now we have all kinds of vacuum cleaner. And in my book, I gave a challenge to the readers. They come up with a new use or improved version of a vacuum cleaner and gave the clue. I said, vacuum cleaner it sucks out a lot of air.
Right.
And if you feel the other side, you are pushing that air away. Maybe you can come up with a way to use that air that is escaping from the vacuum cleaner. This is how they invented things. Because you're actually wasting a lot of energy by doing that. And maybe you can use it as to blow the dust away from the area that you don't want. Or you can use it to dry the wet floor after mopping. But you could even improve the vacuum cleaner to do the vacuum first, and next step around you can spray some water, and then use the vacuum again and clean up all the suck out all the water. Then final stage, use the air that's going out of the vacuum cleaner to use it completely dry it. And strangely enough, a year after I published the book, I saw a product in the market. They had this water spray in front of the vacuum cleaner, and did exactly same challenge I mentioned in my book. So I was very happy to see that people are reading it, and they came up with make use of that opportunity and came up with the solutions.
Definitely. Now, is there an invention that your family is looking for you to make yourself and everything? Because I know a lot of times when folks have inventions, then sometimes their family members have something that they would like them to invent that they haven't created yet. So in your own personal family, is there like an invention that your own family is like saying, we really wish Charlie would invent this right now, and they're still pushing you to have this invention? And if so, what is that invention?
Well, I get so many questions. My wife always asks me, "Can you do this better, make something better?" Every object I touch it, I get that question. So I don't know if I can pick anything particular. One time, this is like a long time ago, I was driving to work every morning, and I was driving east, and the sun was coming right in my face, and I'm not a very tall person, and the sun visor doesn't really cover me. I said, there has to be a solution for that. So I worked on it, thought about it, and then I went to Home Depot and bought a few parts, and I actually came up with a sun visor attachment that you can put it there. And it has a small shade that can move left, right, or up or down. So even that small shade then cover my eyes, and when I change the direction of the sun, I can move it and to block the sun. So this time, at that time, I was working for this company that made the bubble wrap. So I thought, maybe I should patent this. Maybe the company can help me to not the company help me. The company can take this idea and so they sent it to their legal department and came back and they said they decided not to proceed with that. Number one reason they gave me was it is a very liability product. Anytime somebody has an accident, guess who is going to get sued? The company who made that sun visor. So company was going through a lot of legal issues because of the product liability, and their legal department said, we are not going to entertain any more ideas that has even a remote possibility of a liability. I don't know if it's the right decision or not, but at that time, maybe it was the right decision. But since then, I have seen many products, sun visor extensions. Even last week, I saw a new type of sun visor extensions, very similar to the one I designed. But unfortunately, I never patented and never applied for a protection. So I'm strictly out of luck in that product.
Didn't have any luck with that, but you've had luck with a number of other products. Now, you talk within your book and everything about good inventions with IP versus those good inventions without IP. Could you talk a little bit more about that, as also a little bit about the whole concept of opportunity? Because I know a lot of folks are probably thinking, well, I need to be thinking about some opportunities. Absolutely.
Anytime you have a good invention, Well, if you're a good inventor, your number one priority should be, as soon as you finish inventing that, you have to protect it using an IP, intellectual property, or a patent, or a trade secret for that matter. The reason for that, if you have a good invention and if you protected it, you're practically sitting in a gold mine. You can actually market this product without anybody competing with you. You can legally protect this product from anybody copying that idea. And you can also license this product and collect royalty. Or you can sell your invention to huge companies for a huge profit. Now, on the other hand, if you have the same invention and you neglect it or you decided not to go for a patent or a protection, the result is that invention has no value to you. You have no ownership or no control on that product. Anybody is free to use that invention. And the worst thing is, people can even apply for a patent on your invention and get the patent or get the right and leave you completely out of the picture. So protecting your invention is just as important as coming out with an invention. So those are the critical differences between having a protected invention or an unprotected invention.
And you're talking about opportunities as well. And I know a lot of times folks, when they think about inventions, they don't think about how great of an opportunity it can be and everything along those lines. And earlier I had talked to you about the person that we talked about the young lady, but I would also love to hear about the person that was becoming almost a centurion and they had an invention. So I'd love to hear more about that as well.
Can you repeat that, please?
Earlier you had, within your folks that you were talking about, you had mentioned somebody that was 96 years old that also came up with an invention. So I'd love to hear more about that story.
Okay, Dr. John Goodenough, he came up with the alkaline battery when he was 96 years old. And he's still a professor in Texas, still go to the office every day. And actually, recently, this year, he was nominated for a Nobel Prize. So he has many inventions. But the point I was trying to make is that age is not a factor. And a 96-year-old man can think as sharp as a young person and come up with an invention. And he is a perfect example. And there are many like that.
Wow. Could you talk to me also about the 6-year-old? Because I know you talked about the young lady that was a preteen, but you also mentioned somebody that was 6 years old that had also come up with an invention. I'd love to hear more about the story of this young lady, I think it was, and came up with an invention as well.
The 6-year-old boy robbed a toy truck. At that time, he was playing with different cars, and he was kind of bored with all the toys he has. And he said, maybe I have to do something different. So instead of having the toy cars he had, he came up with a toy truck. And nobody thought that would be a successful, because who wanted to play with a truck? Everybody wanted to use the fancy cars and everything. But as soon as he came up with that, his parents contacted some toy companies, and they thought it was a great idea. And it took off from there, and it was a huge hit in the toy industry. So sometimes you are discouraged by coming up with an invention or a product, thinking that nobody would like it. But you don't know the market, how the market think. So that's why you need a good marketing person to have a successful product. And
That actually raises a good question, and you've mentioned definitely the patents, and we have a show here called The Lawyer's Den, and definitely you talked about marketing. What is, because oftentimes the inventor is the creative mind and things of that nature. What is some of the things that you think a good inventor needs on their team? Definitely you need the support of your loved ones, but what are some of the other things that an inventor needs on their team in order to be a success?
Yeah, well, in a industry environment, if you want to be a good inventor, you have to be in a team, and you work closely with the manufacturing, because you need to know, once you have this product, the manufacturing has all the capabilities to make that product, and also to make sure it meets all the regulations, environmental regulations, whether it meet the FDA or the UL lab approval, and so on. You also need a marketing person. You want to know whether this product can be sold. People would be interested, and they do the market search, survey, and they can come up with the real good answers whether this product will fly or not. So marketing you should think like a marketing person.
Okay.
Besides having a marketing person, right? Because a lot of times when you come up with an idea, you don't want to go to the marketing person and ask questions all the time. So a lot of times you can do your own marketing if you are smart enough to do that. So marketing, you should be in a team. You should also have the financial group in your team. Mm-hmm. They will decide whether this product can be made in a reasonably low cost and can be sold at a high margin. And finally, you need the legal team, legal person in your team. He will tell you whether this product has a good chance of surviving or the patent search, and they can always do the patent search, whether similar products is in the market. Even if you see sometimes you see a similar products in the market, but if a legal person can actually find the difference between the two, and he can pinpoint the differences, and if that difference is significant, then you have a better chance to beat your competition. That's why a legal team. So you have to have a marketing, manufacturing, financial, and legal team in your side. And a lot of times when you work closely with them, you started think like them. You started wearing different hats. So when you start thinking about an idea, you actually think like all these different person, and you can have a better idea whether this is going to be a successful product. You can move forward, and you have a better confidence before you present it to the group.
Now, one of the inventions that you are very much involved with, and I'd love to hear you talk about this, because I know that my mom has used this invention a number of times because she has a swimming pool. So if you could talk about the swimming pool cover and what made you decide to come up with that swimming pool cover and everything, I'd love to hear more about that, because like I said, I know that my mom has actually got a swimming pool, and now that we're going to winter, she's actually got the cover on top of the swimming pool and all of that.
Right. Well, it all happened once the company got very successful in this bubble wrap for the protective packaging. The company wanted to grow, but you can grow only so much. Then how do you grow beyond the market size? The only way to do it, come up with a different use for it. Try a different market. And that's how we started thinking different ways to use this bubble wrap. And one of them was the swimming pool cover. The reason we try to do that, it is a very lightweight, it will float on the top, and it is transparent. So it can absorb sunlight and use the sunlight to heat up the water underneath. So besides covering it and protecting it from debris, it also heat up your pool with your sunlight, and also insulate it and prevent the water evaporation. So you don't need to refill the pool every so often. So it was a great product. It has multiple purpose and multiple use.
Yep.
So
I know you were involved with the absorbent meat pad, and the ostomy bag, which I'm not even sure what that is. So if you could talk a little bit about those as well, I'd love to know more about those.
The absorbent meat pad is, let me see if I have a sample. Okay. This is the absorbent meat pad that you will see under the meat when you buy a meat tray. This is intended to absorb the meat blood. That is done for two different purposes. First, to soak up all the blood and keep it away from the meat. By doing so, you are increasing the shelf life of the meat, because once the meat sit on the blood, the bacteria goes and spoil the meat so faster than when you keep the blood away from it. So that was one of the reasons we did that. The second reason is that by absorbing the blood, you don't see blood floating around the meat pad when you try to buy it. You don't like to get a tray that has a pool of blood underneath. So those are two reasons why we came up with that product. And it's a very simple product. And it didn't take a genius to come up with it. All you need is a two plastic film. You put them together and put some absorbent material inside and seal around on the periphery. And on one side, you put hundreds of tiny holes. These holes are specially designed. It acts like a one-way valve. So the blood can go in and it won't come out. So unless you squeeze it out. Right. And this simple design became one of the highest profit margin business for the company. It was one of the successful products. And it didn't take a lot of development work to create this simple product. I made a modified version of it. There was a story behind it. Mm-hmm. One time I was talking to a customer who told us that they were having a problem with their meat in the meat store. They had a meat store in a very high crime area, and they were losing a lot of high-priced meat. People are stealing it. And they told me a story. One day they caught a person. He took the meat and put it under the hat, and he pulled it tight, and he walked to the door. When he walked to the door, the sales lady saw his hat was bleeding. The blood was coming out of it, and he was caught. So while telling the story, he asked us whether we could help them to prevent this theft. So I came up with a simple design modification. Took the same pad, but I inserted a tiny wire, which is a theft sensor. And if they use this pad, this new modified pad, when they walk through the door, it'll ring the alarm, and they can easily get caught. So we started selling this product with a high profit margin, and it solved their problem, and they were willing to pay a high price for it. So it's a simple modification, can solve real problems, and also you can make a lot of money.
What is because some people that are listening and watching from around the world, they may be wondering that a lot of times people will think about inventions as something that will definitely solve a problem, and it is definitely something that is needed and all of that. But then they wonder, is it going to be something that will give me financial reward as well? So I think that a lot of times folks don't even think about that when they're inventors. They're not even thinking about what reward they may get. I doubt very seriously that the guys that invented Coca-Cola were thinking that it was going to be a award-winning product and all of that. They were just glad to create this award-winning formula that is definitely loved by many. The same with some of the other food products as well. But for those that are out there thinking that this is something they want to do in order to have financial well-being, do you think that being an inventor is a good way to go?
Well, there's a couple of ways to look at it. Number one, when you talk about award-winning products, I don't think the person who invented it is not going to get a lot of money. Right. It is a name for the company. That's a promotional tool to advertise it. I don't think there's any. They may get some financial reward, but nothing significant. The only way you can do it, you have to have a patent protection in your name, and you can cash it on by selling your idea to a company who sells similar products. That company will be very interested in buying your patent. Right. And you have a couple of different choices. You can license that product, your patent, to that company. So which means they will give you a royalty. Every time they sell a product, you get a percentage. That can be huge if it is a huge market for it. The second choice is you can you can also have an agreement by giving the license. At the same time, you also can make that product and sell it. So you have a double dip. You make your own product and sell it, and you also let the competition sell for you, and they give you the financial reward. The third idea is if you think it is good enough product and the company want it really bad, you can sell your patent for a huge sum of money, and that could be significant. Yeah. You probably heard about but you have to be careful when you deal with the big companies. You probably heard about the Viper, what do you call that? The Viper, that stop and go type of Viper. That was an invention done by a gentleman, and he found out that Ford Motor Company somehow stole his idea and started making it. And then he got a lawyer, and there's a movie about this story. Mm-hmm. And he practically went bankrupt fighting this giant corporation. Right. It went years and years. Finally, the company gave up and gave the huge financial reward for this person. But at that time, he was dead. Right. So he couldn't enjoy that financial reward, but his family got it. But what I'm trying to say, it took too long, and chances are you wouldn't have a great chance to fight with the giant companies if you are a small person. That's it's unfortunate, but that's the reality.
Yeah. Now, I know one of the other guests that I've had on my show, and Tree had him on his show as well, was Simon Tam, who was a musician involved in kind of like patent fights with his music and things of that nature. And then I know that there have been other folks even on this platform, IBM TV, that are involved in the music field. And they oftentimes face patents as well. As an inventor, what kind of advice would you give to people that are in the creative space in terms of what they might be doing with their patents and some of their things that they have going on as well? Because I know a lot of times the inventors are also sometimes using things that can be in that same creative space.
Now, did he say he had a patent?
I believe Simon said he had a patent on one of the things that he had going on. I'm going to have to look that up real quick and everything. But while I'm looking that up, I will hear what you've got to say about just music in general. But I know it went to the Supreme Court and all of that because that was with the Slants case. That was the name of his band and everything. So I'm actually going to look that up.
Yeah. Well, there are several things you have to look at when you have a patent. Some of the patents are easy to copy. It all depends on how well the patent is written. That's why you need a good lawyer to get a patent. So I will give you an example. Say you came up with a chair design, right, and it has 4 legs, and you wrote down a description of the chair, a furniture to sit down with a seat and 4 legs. That's how he wrote the patent application. That's the biggest mistake he made, because he, as an inventor, he had to think like the other inventors. If he sees this product, he will think beyond it, how to make that product better or cheaper. And he missed that point by claiming that 4 legs and a seat. The reason is another person can come up with it, and he say, well, I'm going to patent a chair with 5 legs, which is more sturdy. Or 3 legs, which is cheaper. So both people can compete with them, even though he has a patent. But if he write the language, he say a chair with at least 3 legs. That changing the language made a big difference. So nobody can make a chair with 5 legs now, because my language in the patent cover his. He will be infringing that if he make a 5 leg. Even with the 3 legs or 2 legs or 1 leg with a flat base, he cannot do that. So it all depends on how well you write your patent claim. That's why you need a lawyer.
And apparently, going back to Simon's case, apparently Simon, and I remember when he was talking about this earlier, I think this year and everything, but his was actually a trademark, and it was about the name of the band that he founded, which was Lance, and it was revolving around whether they could use that name because of its connotations and everything. And as I recall, he actually did win the case, and he is now able to still use that name and everything, but it was actually more of a trademark battle versus a patent battle.
Yeah, even with the trademark, a lot of people say. I think there was an example on Nike. Mm-hmm. Somebody came up with the shoes. It's called Mikey, mm-hmm. and he had a very similar sign. So the case went to the court. The judge asked him, "Why did you do that? Why couldn't you show something totally different than this thing?" Then he said, "Well, if I didn't say Mikey, which sounds similar to Nike, then people think it's something different. So I can fool the people by changing the name." Judge threw the case out because he purposely tried to mislead the people by having it. So there are cases that he can still protect, even when people try to, make slight changes and try to get around it.
Yeah, definitely. I was showing the banner of your guide to invention.com. So if folks are interested in getting a copy of your book, is it still available? And is that the best way for them to get it? Or should they get it from other sources as well? Is it available on Amazon or a number of the other places as well? So how can folks...
Amazon probably the best way. Sometimes they give you a lot of promotions and they give a good deal.
Cool. So that's the best way to get that and everything. Now, what if somebody comes to you and they say that they are an inventor and that they want to get into this invention space and everything? You've given a number of examples of traits that you feel that they need to have and everything. But what advice do you give to folks if they tell you they want to be an inventor? I mean, I know sometimes musicians will tell folks to, know what you're getting into, and they give them the warning signals about some of the headaches that they're getting into when they get into the music business. So I'm thinking you may do the same with some of the inventors. So when folks come to you and they say, "I want to be an inventor," what advice do you give them?
Well, like I said, you have to have a good imagination. And I would say, take any products that you have in the house. You look at it and you analyze it. And instead of finding all the good things about it, you try to think, what is missing in it? Or can I make it better? Can I make it bigger, smaller, safer, faster, cheaper? Ask all these questions. Or can I make it or modify it to make it better? Or add something to it to make it do something different than what it's meant for? The answer to each one of these questions can lead to an idea, and that can lead to an invention. So do the simple homework. Take any object that you have and start asking these questions. That's how you develop your imagination and creativity.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. By the way, Ankit, one of our people involved in the founding of the international broadcast media, who is actually based in India, was enjoying our conversation and was definitely enjoying what we were talking about and all of that. Do you find that it's different being an inventor in the United States versus being an inventor in other parts of the world? Or do you think that the qualities are all the same no matter where you are creating your inventions at? So I know that you've done a lot of travel. You have living in the United States now, but you're from another part of the world as well. So do you think that the qualities are the same no matter where you are, or is it different from culture to culture?
Well, it's different culture to culture. United States probably one of the best place for you to be an inventor. There are several reasons for that. First, you have all the resources and all the knowledge that you can deal with so many people who are in the field. The second reason is that the protection, how you protect your invention. This varies from country to country. One time, China was one of the biggest, even now, one of the biggest violators of international patent law. So even if you have a good patent, it doesn't mean anything to them. They have no respect for the law. It is changing because of the international law. They are toughening up, but still there are big issues. And also certain countries, China is not the only one. Other countries also did the same thing. But the United States have fully respected patent law, and you can be sure that your patent will be protected.
In addition to the United States, are there any other countries, be they in Europe or other parts of the world, that you feel are equal in terms of protecting the patent laws and definitely protecting their inventors? So definitely the United States is a great country and does a great job of protecting the inventor. But is there other parts of the world that you would say are equal or maybe have similar kind of rules?
Yeah, I would say all the European Union, Australia, New Zealand, Canada are just as good. Some of the South American countries are just as good. I would say most of the South American countries are just as good. But I would rank United States and European Union, Australia as number one. And some countries of South America.
Yeah. And one of the other things I've noticed, like I said, I talked to you earlier about that situation in Indonesia where they were having the boating situation with the motor boats and all of that. But I am seeing a number of countries that seem to be even more engaged in trying to create business, and in terms of creating business, also creating inventions. And I would argue that definitely the Caribbean is one of those places, and probably some of the African nations as well. Would you agree with me on that we're seeing more of an increase of invention in some of these kind of places that used not to do it as much, but they're coming back into the fold of doing more inventions?
Oh, absolutely, because there is a need for that. Here is pretty much saturated. I shouldn't say saturated. We were much more advanced. They are much more behind. So they have a lot to catch up. And each step you take to catch up can create an invention. So there's more opportunities there than here. And this is a typical example, the way I grew up. When I saw what was outside the world, outside our little village, island, I thought it was a gold mine to attack and capture all these ideas and to either to imitate or improvise. And that's how I started thinking. And that were actually made me who I am today.
Yeah. And we're starting to see, like I said, more summits also taking place. I know that Angie was involved in one, which was our World Leader Summit. And then there was one that was out of Ghana that I had some friends that were involved in. So it seems like a lot of inventors are also using these summits to get their products out as well. Is that something that you would encourage folks to do, to kind of get involved in these kind of like leadership summits or these international summits or these kind of like opportunities to put their inventions out to the public? Or what other ways would you encourage people to get their invention out once they've created it?
Well, I'm not sure what's the best way to do that, but I think a lot of summit, international conference, they kind of doing the same thing, but I'm not sure if they're addressing this issue the way it should be addressed, or given the same importance as it needs to be. But any conference, any uh, summit like this will be the way to do it.
Sounds great. And what are some of the things that are in Charles' future and everything? So what are some of the things that you're looking forward to doing in terms of your own business, in terms of your own inventions, in terms of things that you are hoping to do, say, in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years?
Well, I'm kind of slowing down. I want to enjoy my life a little bit. I got serious with the sports called pickleball,
Okay.
and I'm an avid player now. 2 weeks ago, it was snowing outside, and we had a group of over 10, 12 people. We all went there, took the shovel, and we shoveled the snow and used the blower to dry the floor, and we started playing. It was about below freezing temperature, but we had the right gear when we played it, and so I'm kind of enjoying it. But I got the request from my previous company and some other companies to go as a consultant, and I'm kind of not accepting that because I probably need a lot of traveling, and at this time I don't want to. With the COVID, I don't want to do that. So anything I can do by myself, I'll do it, but not to work with any company at this time. I'm not keen on doing that at this time, at least not until the COVID crisis is over.
Yep. And as a person that's an inventor and as one that is works for your business and everything, how has the COVID pandemic impacted the work that you're doing? Have you done more virtual conferences or more virtual consulting, or how has it been impacting your business as you've been doing the work?
Well, the good thing is by having a virtual contact is one of the greatest things. We never thought that we could do that. Practically everything is virtual now. I mean, that's one of the, I don't know if it's a good thing about it, because nothing is good about COVID. But the after effect was that we made good progress in this technology. And companies like Zoom, they, came up with they're modifying it every day. Things are getting better, faster, user-friendly, and all that. So each one of these is end up in an invention. So, yeah, and even the supermarket or restaurants. Some of the restaurants are making more money than before because of the takeout orders. Not all of them. The majority are failing, but some of them, they found that niche. They specialize only in takeout and delivery, and they found a way to survive and make it better. So there are a lot of opportunities. The thing is, you have to identify that opportunity and then work on it, and then come up with a solution.
Yes, interesting you said that, because I was actually just thinking I've actually got a couple of friends of mine that are in that field that you're talking about. They one of them drives for Grubhub and DoorDash, which is kind of the delivery service that you're talking about. And I've got some other friends that are driving for Uber and Lyft. So we are seeing an uptick in those kind of gig businesses. So I guess that's another case of, even though it's not necessarily an invention, but it is something that has been created that's more out there that wasn't out there, that is having an uptick because of what's going on in the pandemic. And I imagine we're going to see more of that there might be some more creations of new businesses, as well as even new inventions that might come out and everything. So outside of the vaccines, what are some of the things that you are expecting as an inventor that we might see over the next 5 to 10 years? Definitely everybody's going to be concerned about the vaccine and how that might impact us. But what are some of the inventions that you're expecting to take place? Because I heard about one that I'm going to share with you in a little bit, but I'm curious to hear what inventions you're hearing about that we might see in the near future.
From me, or like I said, I'm kind of slowing down. I have a lot of pet projects which I cannot talk at this time because of the confidentiality issue. But I'm working on a few projects that keep me going. And so other than that, I like to, since I'm in this pickleball, I want to improve the game, maybe come up with a different type of ball or different type of racket, different type of, see, when we also use a indoor tennis court for the pickleball. But when we go there, we have to practically rebuild the court each time before we play. We have to bring our own net, and we have to make our own the lines where you keep your court limits and all that. It's like a 15-20 minutes process.
Wow.
And so I'm thinking of a way to how to make it better, make it do everything maybe within a couple of minutes. With a flip of a button, you can have a tennis court to a pickleball court. So that's a challenge I have. I don't have a real solution to that, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and that's what inventors always seem to do is think on their toes and everything. One of the things that I was curious about and that I had heard about recently, it might have been on a news program, was there was a folks that were talking about that when we get back to doing live performances, like right now, the number of the venues, if they are open, will do temperature checks, and of course they'll do some of the other checks. But they were saying that they were going to have a device that would actually show whether the person had been vaccinated or had actually had the vaccination before they would even let them into the big coliseums, assuming that we get back to playing football in the big coliseums with the big audiences in the next 2 to 3 years. So that's kind of those kind of inventions that I was talking about. I was curious to what are you hearing that we might be seeing in the near future? Because that was one that I was fascinated by, because I imagine that could be good, but it could also slow down the whole process of getting into a big coliseum if everybody's got to give your ticket and then also get tested to make sure that you actually had the correct procedures done in terms of the vaccination. And I guess they would send you back if you were given the negative.
Well, I'm envisioning something. I mean, this could be far-fetched. You probably have some kind of scanning.
Right.
People will walk through the line without slowing down, and they can scan each people, and they can get the results they wanted. For the airline, I mean, you don't have the time to put the thermometer on your head or take the Q-tip in your nose and get the samples in there. If there any way they can have a scanner, and there's nobody, you don't need anybody to operate it. The scanner is fixed in one position, and they will scan each person walking by. You don't have to slow down. You can even run, and they can capture all the information about this disease, whether you're a carrier or not. And that will be a big breakthrough. And I'm sure a lot of people are already working on it.
Yep, I imagine that would be the case, and I definitely hope that's the case here, because I know that I work for a cultural arts center, and a number of them are closed down, either doing only virtual concerts, or in the case of one or two of them, not doing anything at all, just being totally shut down. So I know a lot of folks in that space are waiting for things to open up in a more traditional sense, but I'm thinking that we will never be back to fully the way that we used to have normal. And I imagine that we're going to still be dealing with masks for a while and things of that nature. So what are some of the things that you've heard about even mask improvements, or have you heard about any inventions about mask improvements? I know that so far most of the people I'm seeing are using the standard mask, but are you hearing anything in the invention space about new things that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily the new thing. In some of the underdeveloped countries, I have seen people being creative because they cannot afford to buy a mask. Be creative and come up with a solution. And one person I see, he took an old T-shirt, he cut off the sleeve, and then 2 slit on both sides, and he just pulled it. That became the thread he can put through it, and the T-shirt sleeve became a mask. And this is an old T-shirt. He was using it, and people are so creative, and these people have no education. They are never probably went to school, but they came up with these creative ideas. One lady, I believe in Italy, she used her bra and cut into 2 pieces and used a cup as the mask, and used the same strings for the bra. She used as the strings to attach it. These are creative. I'm not talking about high tech. I'm talking about very simple, creative way to come up with the solutions.
Definitely. It sounds like some great ideas there and everything. I know you're ready to wrap up this segment and everything, and I've definitely appreciated you being on. I've got another hour to go, and I'm hoping that my comic book person will come on, but I've definitely appreciated your conversation on this part of the show and everything. But one of the things I always do with all my guests is I always give them an opportunity to share any words of wisdom or words of encouragement that they would like to share with the public. So I would love to hear any words of encouragement or words of positivity that you would like to share with our audience, because that's something that I always love doing on all of the shows that I'm part of.
Well, what I like to do is I like to encourage people to take the challenge. And if you want to be an inventor, you take a proactive approach. Identify a problem before the problem comes to you. Then you have an initiation of the invention process. Then come up with a solution by creating something new, useful, different, or unique. Can also create something to make our life a little better, a little easier, a little safer. But most importantly, create something that you can be proud of. Having your name in an invention is something you can be proud of for the rest of your life. And I hope you will find that inventor in you.
Yep, I think that most people will find the inventor in them, and I think that there's a number of folks that have got some invention that they are trying to figure out and everything. If somebody does have an invention idea that they want to share with the world and everything, they can definitely get in touch with you and read your book and all of that. But definitely, if you would tell folks how they can reach you, I'm sure that folks here on IBM TV would love to know how folks can reach you if they've got ideas or if they want to hear more conversation from you or if they want to get advice from you.
Right. I'd love to help it. One key advice for anybody: if you have an invention, you don't want to go and tell the whole world about your invention, because once the cat is out of the bag, you lost your protection. Because they can, according to the new patent law, it's not who invented first who is going to get the patent. Who filed the application first will get the patent. So if you and I came up with the same invention, I came up with the invention, but you learned about it later, but you are the first one to go to the patent office and filed it, you are the winner. I'm the loser.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the new patent law. So you got to be very careful. You don't want to reveal all information, all the secrets to anybody unless you have some confidential non-disclosure agreement with that person.
Right.
That's very important.
Could you talk a little bit about that? I know, because I can go over a little bit more, but I know too often we don't hear about those non-disclosure agreements, and I know that they're very important for the inventors and everything of that nature. So could you share a little bit about the importance of non-disclosure agreements? Because I know that that's something that is very important to anybody that is an inventor.
Yeah. Well, in the industry, it's absolutely necessary that you have to tell your invention to your potential customers. That's the only way you're going to find out if this is going to be a product they will be interested in. And that's how you do the market search to determine how big the volume is. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. As soon as you tell them, they can, if they're not an honest person, they can already start making this product and sell it. That's where the non-confidential, non-disclosure agreement come in. You will tell the customer, hey, I have a product that I think you might be interested, and he can sell it. Right. But before I tell it, I want a non-disclosure agreement that you cannot reveal this information to anybody. And then you sign that, then you are free to use that. So that's very, very important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know one of the things that on next week's show and everything, we're going to have a young lady, T. Naomi Lucas, and she's actually got a product called Southern Wicked Lemonade. It was actually a liquor company and everything, but she's actually transformed her company now. She still has the liquor, but because of what was going on with COVID, a lot of her product is now hand sanitizer. So she's actually switched from becoming a liquor company, even though they still sell the liquor, doing more hand sanitizations and things along that line. So one of the things I guess inventors have been masters of, and it's definitely something that I think you've been a master of, is something that we've heard a lot of people talking about in this day and time, which is that whole concept of pivoting. So I know that a lot of times we find that we have to pivot and recreate ourselves and things along that line. So definitely, would you say that that's something that an inventor should always be paying attention to? I've even thinking about some of the famous inventors out there. Like I'm a big fan of KFC, and I know that, of course, the Colonel had his product and everything that he put out there and everything. But then he also came out with other products that were more recent, be that the brown rice or be that the pot pies that were very popular for a while. So it seems that that company kind of reinvented itself as well. And I would argue that's what Coca-Cola did when they came out with Cherry Coke and some of the other products. So do you think that reinvention is an important aspect of the invention process?
Well, yeah, that's the innovation process. Innovation. A good example is the bubble wrap. When he invented bubble wrap, he didn't know what to use it for. So he didn't do the market survey. He didn't do the market analysis. And he decided himself, oh, this is going to be a great product as a wallpaper. And that was his mistake. It's a big mistake he made. If had he gone through the market analysis, he probably would have found out that this product probably won't fly or make a good market entry. But if he have done this, then he would have thought differently and try to come up with a different use for it. So that's important. And just like and then it became a huge hit for something other than what he's invented this product for. Same way the alcohol became hand sanitizer.
Right. Yeah, that's very much the case. And I know there's a number of other cases where people have seen something that was serving one purpose, but then they used it for something altogether different and everything of that nature. Can you give an example, even in your own life, of some product that was something that you thought was going to be one thing, but it wound up being something else? So you definitely talked about bubble wrap and the companies that you work for, but are there any personal examples that you can give of something that when you came up with the thought product or the patent, you thought it was going to be one thing, and it turned out to be used for something totally different?
Well, one example I already talked about is the cell phone. Right. It was, right now we use cell phone only 10% of the time. 90% of the time it was used for, we are using it for something other than what it's invented for. So that's a good example of that product. Trying to think some other example. A lot of toys I've seen that the consumers used it. They made it better and used it for something else. You will see that in any line of products. You will see things that's intended to use it for, people are using for something else. And,
I guess a primary example of that would be drones, because if I remember correctly, drones were originally used primarily as a military tool and things of that nature, but now we're seeing them used to deliver packages. We're seeing them used as toys. We're seeing them used for a number of different reasons out there. But I think that would be a great example of something that might have been used for one purpose, because as I recall, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think drones were used as a military tool.
That's absolutely true.
but now we're seeing them used for a variety of reasons and all of that. Because,
Right.
like I said, we're going to see them possibly even delivering people's Christmas gifts in another couple of days and everything along those lines. So, as an inventor, you don't have to worry about Christmas and all of that
Yeah.
because you always have in mind whatever the invention is going to be. But what is on Charles' Christmas list? So that's the question I'm going to ask you right now as we wind down and everything. But what is on Charles' personal Christmas list that he's asked his wife and his family to get to him, as well as the man with the beard, other than me, which is Santa Claus? But what is folks asked on your wish and everything?
Well, I wish I could come up with a toy that's going to, excite all the kids. That I mean, there are a lot of toys in there, but I want to look outside the box, think outside the box, and say, even there is some of the toys that you already have here, or create something new, and that's going to create a lot of excitement in the kids. And I don't know what it is now, but that's in the back of my mind.
Yep, I know that would be great if we could come up with some new toy and everything like that. But sometimes the toys are the most simple. I remember I was talking to some friends of mine and we were talking about the early days of the video games, and there was a game called Pong, and it was literally just nothing but on the old TV set, and it would be a ball knocking into a wall and then trying to like break the wall. And that was the most simplest of games. But when there was no other video games and there wasn't all these complicated video games that are out there now, as a teenager, when that came out in the probably 70s or something like that, I was totally excited about it. But now, my nephews who are 11 and 12 would be looking at me like this game is totally boring and totally not exciting whatsoever, because they've got all kinds of games that engage all of their senses, whether that's games of brain games, or whether that's war games, or whether that's other kind of games that are out there, but they seem to stimulate a lot more of the senses than a little ping pong ball going up and down, hitting a wall, which was exciting me when I was a teenager or a preteen. So definitely, I think that kind of like, but then they would also, you earlier referenced Get Smart, and I do remember that TV show, and they would probably be going like, why is he using that phone? Because that phone is not really a cell phone, but in that mind, as we were watching it as a TV show, it seemed to be a great thing. And I could even go further back than that, Charles. And I don't know if you remember a show called Wild Wild West, but they also had great gadgets that would come out of the middle of nowhere. They would come out of the heels of the main characters, particularly the secondary character, who I think was Artemis, if I remember correctly, and everything. But you just remember them as having all of these amazing gadgets that are now real gadgets. But at the time, we weren't thinking of them as being all that real. So do you ever think of yourself, in addition to being an inventor, as being a futurist? Because a lot of times when I think of inventors, I think of them as also being futurists. And I know that a number of the futurists that were out there might have also been inventors, because some people might put even Edison in that category of being a futurist. I know that Toffler is definitely a futurist. But as an inventor, do you can also consider yourself a futurist as well? And if so, what do you think we will see in your mind, let's say 25 years from now and 50 years from now, that you can think that we might be expecting to see in the future?
Well, I would say artificial intelligence, AI, will be the top in my list that you're going to see. I mean, that's going to change the whole world. You're creating human computers.
Right.
And that's going to change everything. That's going to touch every aspect of your life, your daily life, your medicine, how the doctors practice their medicine. And it will be robotic doctors.
Well,
because I mean, this is huge. It's unfathomable. I don't know where to stop thinking about it, because no limit to what they can do with the artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Since you say that, I was actually watching a science fiction movie in a contest kind of environment, because it's a movie that is being part of a contest to see if they'll get accepted or not. But in this movie, they actually had kind of the Tinder applications, but it was set in the future. So people were actually literally setting up to have Tinder dates with holographic figures, as well as having like whole advertisements. There were also holographs and things along that line. And as I was watching this movie, I was thinking this movie is a little bit too close to reality, because even though it's only 2020 right now, in 2021, in about a week and a half, I could even visualize this kind of things happening in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Yep. Very much scary, the things that we're having out there.
It is scary. It's scary. And who knows? They will take over. The computer will take over.
No, I definitely remember a movie like that. It was a movie, I forget the title of the movie, but it was a movie where the woman was having her computer run the house, and this was way before the more modern computer, so it might have been set in or written in the 70s or something like that. But the computer literally took over the entire house and basically terrorized this young lady and everything within this movie. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's also a little bit too close to reality, even though, like I said, I think this movie was written in either the 1970s or the 1980s, but I do remember it being a horror movie at that time, and it was about the computer literally deciding that it wanted to be in control of the house and not the person that was in the house actually running the house.
Right. I was talking to a friend of mine in India, and he said they could rent a robot now for parties, and robot will come, act like a waiter, and they go around serving the drinks and take out the empty glasses and bring it back. It was mind-boggling. I couldn't believe when he said that. He can actually rent this for, I don't know how much it cost, but people who can afford it, they just do it, not to save money and make the poor waiters unemployed, but it's a show off. It's a prestige. He said, hey, I'm in a different world. I can, it's a different technology, and they want to show off. So you can actually rent this robots.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've heard you can rent robots for a variety of different reasons and all of that. But sometimes even the inventions come from like space and all of that. Because I know that in one case, there's a popular, well, it used to be more popular now than it is, then than it is now. And that was the drink Tang, which came out of the astronaut program and things of that nature. So we are seeing a number of people that are getting ready to hopefully launch back into space. We've got this Guardian that's coming out into force and everything. So do you think that space travel is also going to lead to more inventions that we can't even imagine right now? Because I do know that there are talk of more space travel coming and going back out in a more regular basis. So do you think that that's going to lead to more inventions as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in my last chapter in my book, I mentioned about the futuristic, what we can expect in the future. And two other things I mentioned was, one is the artificial intelligence, and second was the space exploration, and that's going to be huge. And the third thing was the medical advancement. Different type of treatment and medicines, and to cure all the problems and solve all the problems. So these are the three things I mentioned in my book as something to look forward in the future in terms of inventions.
So I know that they've been looking for it for a number of years, and we haven't found it. Of course, we do have the vaccine now for this current pandemic. But are you hopeful that we will see cures to things that have not ever had cures within your lifetime, or maybe not within your lifetime, within the lifetime of people in the next generation? So we will see like a cure for cancer or a cure for Alzheimer's or a number of these other diseases that have been out here for a number of years. Do you think that we will see those in the next, say, several generations?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance of that's happening, especially with the modern technology that's available to us. You can do the research work that used to take 5 years before, you can do in 5 days today. Wow. So that's how much that technology has advanced. So there's a great chance, real good chance of things like what you mentioned will happen. That's my hope.
Yep, and I have that same hope as well. Now, I know one concern that people have is that as we get these inventions and as folks live longer and keep on living longer and everything, that there is the fear that we might overpopulate the population, and that we also might create too much of a utopia and things of that nature. I don't know that we'll ever have that happen definitely not in my lifetime, or maybe not even in my nephew's lifetime, as I have no kids of my own. But what are your own fears about that? Do you think that we will ever head to a utopia where we may have people living very long lives, well into their 150s and 200s, and that there may be too many people and not enough resources? But I mean, some people would argue that that's the case now.
Yeah. Well, it could. Right now, it's a fiction, but I think it's not far-fetched. It could happen, and then again, that's not the only way you are changing. There's a lot of other things changing that's going to negate some of the advances. For example, years from now, we could be running out of water.
Well,
those are the challenges, along with all this development. So it could be neutralizing, and maybe the net effect will be same pace. We'll move on with all the improvements. But in terms of increasing the longevity with the life expectancy, definitely it's going to get better. But it also have challenges like epidemic, water shortage, the global warming.
mm-hmm.
These are all real issues we need to address. Maybe not in our generation, but the next generation to come.
And even as we have these crises, it'll be the inventors that'll have to come up with solutions, it sounds like to me. So if we have a water shortage, we'll probably have to have inventors that will create some sort of artificial water that would have the same impacts of what we use natural water for and things of that nature. I mean, definitely I would rather drink the natural H2O, but if there's not enough H2O, then we might have to create artificial versions of that. And the same with sunlight, that if we run it out of sunlight, or if the sunlight becomes too intense for our human bodies, then we might have to create armors or body suits that we saw in some of those science fiction movies in order for us to even cope in these kind of like hotter environments that may be coming our way with global warming and things of that nature. So it seems to me that what you're saying is that while we're going to have these challenges, they could also be opportunities for inventors to actually come up with solutions for those challenges as well.
Yeah, like I said, if there's a will, there's a way. I mean, look in the Middle East countries; they don't have any fresh water. They use all this salt water, and every drop of the good water they are drinking, using, cooking, and washing, come from the salt water. And they came up with the technology to produce enough water to meet all the needs for this huge population.
Yeah.
So it'll happen.
Yeah, that's very true. You actually just made me think about something else as well, and I could go on talking to you forever, Charles, but I will wrap up things very shortly. But one of the things that you just had me think about was the fact that oftentimes we don't think about the fact that some of the great inventions came from a society that we oftentimes think of as not being as developed as ours. And yes, I definitely agree that we have done some great and amazing inventions in the 21st century. But as you were thinking about the Middle East, I was actually just thinking about the Great Pyramids, which to this day, folks cannot explain how they were built and things along that line. But they had to have been invented by some great inventors and some great minds that were able to create that even during that time. And even some of the ways that they even took care of themselves. I mean, like I said, I don't know that a lot of folks would have come up with like the whole mummification process and things along that line, but they felt that it was a need for them to create that kind of situation as they went on into the next life and everything. But oftentimes these kind of things we don't even give credit to the great inventors. Definitely we give credit to the great American inventors of the past, like Thomas Edison, like Alexander Graham Bell, and a number of other ones. But I don't think we pay enough attention to the great inventors, not just in the United States, but around the world, and not just in Egypt, but I would even argue the Incans over there in the Latin American countries did a lot of great things with irrigation that we don't think about, and a number of other things that were done in the ancient times as well. So what are your thoughts about some of the great inventions that came from the ancients, in addition to the great inventions that are coming from our modern world?
Yeah, you mentioned the pyramid, and in the way they made those precise cut of stone in those days, and so heavy and all that. it's mind-boggling how they were able to. They had no calculators. They have no genius mind to come up with the formula and all that. But they did it. It's amazing. The Great Wall of China. I was being very fortunate to be able to walk on that, and I could not believe how they did that in those days. It's miles and miles long, and the stone they used, they have to bring it to the top of the to the high elevation, and they didn't have any crane. And how they were able to do that is mind-boggling. Yeah, but they did it.
Yep, very mind-boggling and everything. Like I said, you're definitely right about that. And a lot of times folks don't think about these mind-boggling inventions that were done in the earlier days. And like I said, I was doing some research not that long ago about the irrigation that the Mayans were doing. And that was also mind-boggling as well. And a lot of times folks don't think about the fact that they were doing that, and it was actually doing major farming using these irrigation tactics that they created in that period of their lives and everything of that nature. I forgot, and I should be ashamed of myself. It's one of those bad rules of journalism, but you had mentioned your hometown earlier, and I never got a clarification as to where that hometown was. So I need you to go back so we can rewind and let folks know a little bit about your early history, because I know you're here in the United States now, and you had that great story about the making of the movies and all of that, but that was one of my neglections. So I will apologize for that. So if you can share with folks where your original home is.
Well, it's in the state of Kerala, Kerala, and we are at the western point of that. Only 3 miles from the ocean, but this small island, somehow we got isolated. How, I don't know how that happened, but if you take a boat, go to the next main island, they had all the convenience. They had the running water, electricity, motor cars, and everything, movie theaters, and all that. I don't know how that happened, but that's the way it was when I was born. But that, I think that I was being. I don't feel bad. I feel I was fortunate to be in that situation and to have that opportunity to think like a person who wants to do more with his life, and especially when he sees something that he doesn't have, he tried to create that by imitating and improvising, and that was the key. And it's again, it's a small island, 3 mile long and maybe half mile wide. We had all the dirt roads. At that time, I still remember years and years when I was, I don't think we had electricity, excuse me. When I was 20 years old, I left the country. I came here for the. At that time, we didn't have electricity in our island.
Wow.
I used to study with the kerosene lamp. That was a source of light to reading it. Thinking back, I wonder how I survived all those years without all these things. But it was a great experience, and I'm glad I was able to survive. I made the best of what we had, and that gave me the confidence and the desire to do better.
Well, and you had earlier mentioned, and just clarify a couple of things as we wrap up the pickleball. And not everybody knows pickleball. I'm familiar with pickleball, but for those that are listening and watching and aren't that familiar with the game, share a little bit about what pickleball is and that game that is a passion of yours.
Yeah, well, it is the fastest growing sports in America now. Everywhere you look, you will have new pickleball courts coming in outdoors, and a lot of indoor tennis courts they're converting into temporarily converting into pickleball. Basically, it is like a tennis, but half the size of tennis court, and you have the same type of net, the same height. Instead of tennis racket, they use a paddle, very similar to a ping pong paddle, but twice as long and twice as wide. And the balls are a little bigger than the tennis ball, but it's made from plastics with the holes in it. So it's very light, and you play the same way. You serve and let the ball bounce and hit back and forth. Rules are very similar to tennis, but it's much more faster game. So you get much more workout when you play that. Once you get used to it, it is so addicting. And like I said, I was even playing in a sub-zero temperature outside for a couple of hours every day.
Definitely sounds like it's a very exciting game and one that you definitely seem to enjoy on a regular basis and everything. You mentioned going to the Great Wall of China. If there was a place that you have not been to that you would like to go to whenever we get out of this pandemic and everything, what is that place that you have not traveled to that is on your dream list of places that you still hope to visit during your lifetime?
Well, I was planning to go to Russia. Actually, I had the travel arrangement made for last June. I paid all the money, and we had about 25 people as a group. We were planning to go together, but everything was postponed, and hopefully maybe end of next summer, if everything comes out, we will take that trip again for the first time. Yeah. You're supposed
that
to.
could be an amazing trip, and definitely one that I'm sure that you will enjoy going for and all of that. So definitely, I'm sure that folks will be looking forward to hearing more about what you've got going on in that. Will there be a sequel to the book? Like I said, you wrote the book about the inventions, but most times when folks write a book, then they want to do the sequel or the one after that. So will there be a post book going into other inventions or other things that you may have learned even from conversations with folks? So can we expect another book as well?
Not right away, but I am my hope is that I can work on a book on innovation. So innovation is the next step to the invention. There's a big difference, but a lot of similarities.
We have a gentleman, Steve Rao. He does a lot of shows here on the network about innovation, and I will have to have you come back at some point to talk to him about innovations, because that's one of the things they talk about all the time on the show in the morning. So like the 10 o'clock show focuses on innovation. So if you could just give a little bit of your definition of what is the difference between innovation and invention, because I'm sure that he may even grab that clip and even use it in the future, because I know that they definitely talk a lot about innovation, but I'd like to hear your definition as to the difference.
Yeah, invention is coming up with a new product, but that's the end of invention. Now, innovation is take that product to go to the next level. Basically, innovation is invention times marketing or commercialization. Thomas Edison basically was considered to be as an inventor. He came out with a lot of inventions, but he did not really pursue most of his inventions into the next level of commercialization. Or he let others to do that. Steve Jobs, he was the prime example of the innovator. He took the Apple computer or Apple phone. Somebody came up with that idea, but he took the idea, he made it to a successful market commercialization, and that's the difference between invention and innovation. He could be the same person. He could invent and innovate, but that combination is not, you don't see too many people doing that. But again, it is a teamwork. If you are an inventor and innovator, you work together, you got it made. You're definitely it's going to be a successful product because he will see the market. He will see what the people are looking for. He will see what the people need. He know what the problems are people are having. When he address all these issues and he take this invention and he try to match them together and then come up with a final version so he can push it through the market and become successful. So that's what the innovator does.
What do you see as being a difference between those qualities that you need to be an inventor and those qualities you need to be an innovator? Or are they the same qualities that you need in terms of ambition and the other ones that you mentioned? Or do you think that there's a quality that's different between the innovator and the inventor?
Innovator, he also needs all these qualities, but he needs much more than that. He needs to know how people think. He needs to know what people need. He needs to know what people will be excited about. So if you have a product, an inventor thinks, hey, this is a great product. The customers will love it. Whereas inventor thinks, I don't want a product customer will buy it. I want a product customer get excited about it. And so he built up all the features to make that product exciting to the customer. That's what the innovator does. So there is a difference, but there's a lot of similarities, a lot of links connecting them together.
Wow. Definitely a lot of links that people can see in the connection between the inventor and the innovator and all of that. So definitely I appreciate it. And all, any final words that you like to leave with our audience today and everything? And then I've got one of the things we do on the online dinner party. And actually one of the clues has been a person that we've mentioned several times today. So if folks are watching, hopefully they will get this one because it should be very easy and everything. But we have like this little trivia quiz that we give and everything. So I'm getting ready to put on those clues. But you don't have to be here for that part and everything, Charles. But definitely, if you have any final thoughts that you would like to share, I would love to hear your final thoughts and anything that you would like to let our audience around the globe know. And by the way, the international broadcast media is aired, of course, throughout the United States and heard on all 50 states on the World Wide Web. But we're also heard in, I think the last estimate I'd heard was about 140 or 150 countries and continually growing on that amount. So we're always growing and definitely have even shows from other countries, because I know that we have a show out of South Africa, which is Alexandria May's Music Cafe. We have The Mind Closet, which is a show out of Nigeria, and we have a bunch of other shows as well. So there are a number of shows that are globally connected here on the network. But any final thoughts that you would like to share with our audience of global listeners, whether they're listening in what we call the live team now or the team replay where they may hear it later on?
Well, like I said before, there are hundreds of thousands of new ideas, solutions, products, and processes are waiting to be invented. I mean, there's no end to what we can expect. The opportunities are endless. And again, we are living in a fast-moving world. Technology is very advanced. Some of the things we use today become obsolete tomorrow. And one of the reasons for this change is our insatiable appetite for newer, better, and faster things. As long as we continue to have this demand, this is a great opportunity for anybody to jump in and be creative and use your 5 qualities I mentioned about. Use them and come up with a solution. Create something useful, different, unique, or create something that make our life a little better, a little easier, and a little safer. So good luck, and hope you will find that inventor in you.
Definitely. I want to thank you, Charles, for being on, and hopefully we can get you back on the near future. We always have these shows on a regular basis, but I definitely had talked to you a while back and said that I definitely wanted to get you on because you always have some very insightful things to say, and I was really impressed with you when I met you through Shri, and definitely you have not failed me again. You've definitely delivered some great innovative thoughts and some great innovative stories. So I definitely want to thank you for being my guest on the Online Dinner Party, which is the show that we call this one on Wednesday, because I do 3 shows for the network: the radio show with Marc Lee, Mullins Music and Memories, and then the one on Wednesday is the Online Dinner Party. So I definitely want to thank you for being my guest today and for definitely sharing your wisdom and your words of encouragement, not just for inventors, but for the common man as well. So, Charles, I was definitely glad to meet you and look forward to hopefully having you come back on some of our other shows and even sharing more insights whenever you're available. But definitely it was great having you on.
I will. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I enjoyed it. And hope we can do this again.
Sounds good. So on that note, I'm going to let Charles go and bounce on off of here, and I'll do our clues of our show and do some wrap-up stuff. But definitely appreciate you, Charles, for being on and for sharing his great wisdom and all of that. As I said earlier, we always do these clues and everything. So definitely one of those clues is he proposed to his wife using Morse code. So if folks are watching, hopefully they know the person. But Charles has mentioned this person a couple of times, as did another person that was on the show earlier. He was actually on Startup Monday and all of that, or Startup Wednesday, I should say. And that was the gentleman that goes by the name of Brent. And we mentioned this person as well. And his first 2 kids might have had something to do with the fact that he named his wife or proposed his wife using that Morse code. But he also named his kids after certain things and everything. So definitely gonna put that up there as well as one of the other clues as well. His 2 kids had the nicknames Dot and Dash. So that's one of his clues as well. And earlier we heard Charles mentioning where he worked at, and this clue may give that as well. He set up his first lab in his parents' basement at the age of 10. And a lot of things that folks may not know is that he was partially deaf. That's right. This particular person was also partially deaf. So that's another clue that is available about this person as well. The fact that he was partially deaf. So keep that in mind as one of the other clues of this particular person. And also he was partially deaf, and that is a clue that folks may be interested in knowing about him as well. So he was partially deaf, and that is another clue about this particular invention. His first invention was actually an electric vote recorder, and I'm sure some folks may be interested in knowing about that in this particular day and time and all of that. Yes, he did do an electric vote counter, or electric vote recorder, I should say, and that was one of the clues about this person as well. So another clue is that he had an electric vote recorder, and I'm a lot of folks are paying attention to what's been going on with the elections that are going on now and all of that. So this is another clue about this particular inventor and everything along that line. He also had a whole lot of patents. I mean, a whole lot of patents. His 1,093 patents are the most on record. That's right. That is the most on record in terms of his patents and all of that. And although he did not invent this particular invention, a lot of folks may be interested in some facts about this invention and everything. So definitely keep things in mind as you're thinking about this particular person and who I may be talking about in this case. But although he did not invent the first electric light, he made the first practical electric light bulb. That's right. Get the words out, Mark. He made the first practical electric light bulb that can be manufactured and used in the home. So that was one of the clues about him as well. So that's some of the clues that we're looking for this particular individual, and hope that folks will be able to figure out who I am talking about. And usually I would create a picture of the person, but this time the picture will be revealed next week because I'm dealing with a different computer and everything. I'll tell you people that I'm talking about, all of that, unless y'all can tell me as the clues are going on the screen and all of that. So definitely these are some of the clues that we are looking for this particular person. He said the words "to Mary had a little lamb" as the first recorded his voice on the phonograph. So he did something with the phonograph, and that's one of the clues. He did a lot of work in creating the motion picture camera and helping move forward the progress of practical movies. So that's some of the clues that we're looking for this particular individual and all of that. So definitely he had some great quotes as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring up some of those quotes that you may be interested in learning about this particular person and all of that. So I'm going to bring up some of his quotes as well, because he did have some amazing quotes and all of that. One of these is this quote: "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." So sweat is what he felt a lot of that had to do with as well. So that's about this particular person. And this other clue exists as well. And folks may be interested in knowing this one as well. So he definitely said that he had some weaknesses and all of that. So we're going to find out what those weaknesses might have been and all of that. So keep that in mind as I reveal some other clues, including one that is rolling across the screen right now. But he said, "Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to success is always to try just one more time." So that was one of his other clues and everything. So he said, our greatest weakness lies in giving up, and the most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. So that is some of the clues about this particular individual, and the folks that I'm looking forward to reveal who the person might be and all of that. So keep that in mind, trying to see if y'all have any idea who I am talking about in this regard. He also said that many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. That's right. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. So that is another one of the clues that folks may try to figure out as well. So that is a number of the clues that we are looking for folks to tell us who this particular person may be and all of that. And like I said before I get out of here, I will reveal that person, and I'll probably show you a picture of who that person is at a later time on another episode of this particular show. So definitely we're still waiting for folks to guess who this person may be. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. And I know a lot of folks can relate to that particular setting. They're thinking that it looks like work and is dressed in overalls. So I'm sure a number of folks that can relate to that on a lot of different situations and all of that. And there's another clue that folks may be interested in, which is if we did all the things we are capable of, we would literally astound ourselves. So that's one of the clues as well. So still waiting for folks to tell me who this particular person is and all of that. And we've got folks that are putting in their thoughts and everything along that line. So definitely got somebody over there talking to me. And I appreciate any conversations that we get in this sense of folks trying to guess the clues and all of that. So definitely, if you've got any ideas who I'm talking about, definitely let me know. If we did all of the things we are capable of, we will literally astound ourselves. So that is another one of the clues of this particular person and all of that. And there is no substitute for hard work. That is very much true. And there is no doubt about that. There is definitely no substitute for hard work. So there's absolutely no substitute whatsoever for hard work. And we all know that to be very much the case and all of that. So these are some of the clues that I'm looking for. So definitely I'm hoping that folks will figure out who these particular people are, because I've actually got another person as well that I'll be revealing as well. We got two folks that we're going to give, but one of them you should have heard a mention of several times within the context of this show. So definitely think about that. To invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk. So to invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk. That's another one of their clues as well. So definitely think about that and think about these great clues that I am revealing to you, and hopefully you'll figure who I'm talking about and all of that. And we've got a new regular panelist, and one of our regular panelists who has Prince in his name quoted that person on Startup Wednesday. So definitely we've heard people mention this particular individual quite a bit today. So our person is one that has been mentioned quite a bit on this particular day and all of that. So definitely hopefully folks will be able to figure out that it must be a theme of theirs today and everything along those lines, because definitely we're seeing a number of clues about this particular person. The second person that I'm looking for is actually a lady, originally wanted to be a professional volleyball player, and had even thought of becoming a member of the Brazilian team Sacapa. So that's what they had hoped to be, a member of the Brazilian team Sacapa. And I'm probably mispronouncing that and everything along that line. And she was bullied at school for being tall and skinny and didn't get much attention at parties. Find that hard to believe, considering the fact that they're married to a famous football player and all of that. But that's another clue that I just gave you and everything along that lines. And even when she started modeling as a teenager, she was rejected by several agencies because her eyes were too small and her nose was too big. That's what they said about this particular individual and all of that. So definitely think about that. Think about who this particular person may be and see if you can figure out the clues about this person as well. And she definitely has won a number of honors. She was a teenager when she was spotted by an agent at a fast food restaurant and started working in her home country. So definitely keep that in mind, that she was spotted as a restaurant at a fast food restaurant at that by an agent, and then started working in her home country. And before making it to the New York Times or the New York Fashion Week debut in 1996 at the age of 16. So she made her debut at the age of 16. And she also had a big break. One of her first big breaks came when Alexander McQueen chose her for his runway show. So that's another clue of this particular person that we are looking for. So definitely keep that in mind. It's somebody who made a big break and definitely had some tremendous success and all of that. So just keep all of this in mind and think if you can think of who the person might be and all of that. When she was only 18, she secured her first British Vogue cover wearing Versace on the August 1998 issue. So keep that in mind as well. And this person also did that as well and had those honors in addition. And in December of 1999, she collected the Model of the Year award at the VH1 Vogue Fashion Awards in New York. So keep that in mind as well. And a few months later, in 2000, she became one of the highest paid models in the world when she signed a $25 million deal with the lingerie brand Victoria's Secret. So she's definitely involved with Victoria's Secret and all of that. So keep that in mind. Think of who this person might be and let us know if you got any ideas who this person might be and all of that. The same year, she was hailed as the most beautiful girl in the world by Rolling Stone magazine. And she also never always thinks of herself in the most positive ways. She said, I thought maybe I don't have the right. Everybody's going to so many difficult things in the world, and I don't have the right to feel this way. So she definitely said that, and then she added to that. So I suppressed it, and the more I suppressed it, the bigger it became. So these are some of the things that she has talked about, this particular person and all of that. So keep that in mind. Tell us who you think this particular guest of honor could be and all of that. So definitely we're revealing some of the clues. She made major lifestyle changes in sugar, alcohol, and caffeine from her diet, quitting smoking and spending as much time as possible outdoors. And also she did some things in terms of cutting back on her work commitments and incorporating yoga and meditation, including several day silent retreats into her schedule. So those are some of the clues about that particular individual as well. So like I said, that's some of the clues that we're looking for about this particular person and all of that. So definitely I'm hoping that folks will be able to figure out the two folks that I am looking for, and I will reveal their names. Later on, I will reveal their pictures on an upcoming edition of this particular show. But for right now, we're just going to go with their names and everything. But I'm giving you a number of clues, and I'm hoping that folks are able to figure out the people that I am talking about in this sense and all of that. So hoping that folks are able to figure this out and figure out the amazing folks that were involved in this discussion and all of that. So keep it in mind and definitely tell me who you think that person could be or who these people are and all of that. And I will definitely reveal it to you in a matter of a few minutes or so. So definitely keep it in your mind who you think the folks are, and definitely what your thoughts are about their success and things along those lines. And I know that a lot of folks will probably be trying to guess who these great individuals are and all of that. So definitely keep that in mind. We're going to keep having these great conversations, and hopefully y'all will be able to figure out who I am talking about and have these great conversations revealed to you in just a matter of a few minutes or so, and everything along those lines. But right now we're going to reveal a great show that airs right here on the network, and you're going to check on that. So definitely, here is a little bit about some of the things that are going on in our community. So definitely that is not our guest host today. So definitely that is not the right one and everything. So I'm going to give it a that one and everything. So hopefully y'all will not get confused, but that is Bishop Tutu, who is a past guest and everything along those lines. So definitely keep that in mind. And right now I'm going to bring up one of our past shows, and hopefully we'll have that going to happen in just a matter of a minute or so. So keep that in mind, and we're getting ready to reveal some great shows and some amazing folks that have been on here in the past, but that is not the first. Yep, and like I said, that's one of our other shows. We hear here on a regular basis that I know a number of folks will be very much interested in and that they will enjoy seeing on a regular basis and all of that. So that's just some of the shows that air here on the network. Of course, another great one is one about travel.
My name's Brandon. I'm a world traveler, foodie, and YouTuber. Together, you and I will find the best travel hacks, tips, and best places to explore. Join me as we find new adventures together, live only on IBM.TV. And a show that we're expecting to come to us very near future is this one.
Hey, Melody. Hey. I came and left, and then I came back, so I left my computer here. But I'm going to be out of here shortly. Back in another 5 minutes, I left my computer here. Yep, I'm going to be away because I had the computer that was, I left you like an idiot. Okay, all right. So just be sure to arm it, okay? Yeah, I'm going to do that now. I know, because it was telling me it wasn't armed. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to arm it because I don't know who's there. That wraps up another edition of the show that is on this particular afternoon and everything. So I hope folks enjoyed the online dinner party and all of that. So I'm going to give y'all one more announcement about another great show that we are going to have airing on a regular basis. That being the mid-Fridays, and then we'll come back with a wrap-up of your clues and all of that. So definitely enjoyed having Charles the Inventor speaking to us today, and it was a great show. But get ready to head on out of here and get on out of here. But let's check out what this is all about. Well, that wraps up another edition of this show, the online dinner party, and I'm going to get on out of here. But for those of you wondering who those people were, it was none other than Gisele Bündchen. Like I said, Gisele Bündchen is the one that is married to Tom Brady and all of that. So Gisele Bündchen is our model from Brazil. Like I said, on next week, I will reveal a picture of that particular person. And then y'all all should have got the person that was the person from the United States. That being none other than Thomas Edison. Of course, y'all know Thomas Edison has been talked about a lot on this particular day. As a matter of fact, I heard definitely Kim mention him. I heard Prince mention him. I even heard my guest today mention him. And of course, I gave y'all a number of clues about him. And still, nobody got Thomas Edison. So I don't know what y'all folks are thinking about, but y'all did not get Thomas Edison. But that is the person that we were looking for, is Thomas Edison and all of that. So definitely looking forward to seeing Thomas Edison being the person that should be the one that y'all know and all of that. So definitely let us know your thoughts on our online dinner party guests and everything. So we are always glad to have some amazing guests on the show and all of that. But right now, I'm going to get on out of here, get ready to head on into the home front, maybe grab a bite to eat and all of that fun stuff. But I am going to get on out of here, and I will catch y'all on the next show. I'm not sure if I'll be on podcast this Thursday, since they're still trying to get the guests together for that one. If not, I'll be here for next Monday and the radio show with Marc Lee, as well as Mullins and Music and Memories. So they will definitely be coming your way at that particular time. So on that note, I'm out of here. I hope that y'all have a great day on this particular evening. I know there's some folks out there still in their last minute Christmas shopping done, but I am going to get on out of here and get into the home front, maybe watch some TV, maybe catch some things going on, maybe grab a book or something along those lines. But I'm definitely getting on out of here, and I will catch you on the next edition when they bring me into the fold to do some other programming right here on the International Broadcast Media TV. So looking forward to catching y'all at a later time. Talk to y'all later, and y'all have a great evening. And if you're in a part of the world where it's good morning, have a good morning. And if you're in a part of the world where it's a good afternoon, afternoon, have a good afternoon. And if you're in a part of the world where it's late night, well, have a good night's rest and all of that. So no matter where you are, I hope that it's good in whatever activities you are involved in. And on that note, I'm out of here.